Okay, welcome everybody to the Utah Statesman Logan Campus Executive Council debate. We'd like to welcome all the students who are with us in the TSC Hub. We would also like to welcome anyone streaming online at the Statesman's YouTube channel and listening in on Aggie Radio 92.3 FM, KBLU-LP in Logan. Before we begin, I'd like to introduce our moderators for the debate. My name is Darcy Ritchie. I'm the managing editor of the Statesman. With me, I have Maggie Erickson, who is a news writer for The Statesman, and our timer today will be JC Caldwell, the news content manager. Here's an outline of today's format. So each candidate will be asked 2 questions. They have 2 minutes to answer, and then after both candidates have answered, each will have a chance for a 1-minute rebuttal. Remember, this is a debate, and we encourage candidates to listen to their opponents and thoughtfully respond to their answers in their rebuttals. After the 2 debate questions, each candidate will be asked 2 quick-hit questions, where they will have 30 seconds to respond. The 30 seconds will begin as soon as the question has been answered, not when the candidate begins speaking. We'll proceed as follows. We'll start with the candidate for Logan Campus Vice President, then move on to candidates for the Logan Campus Athletics and Campus Recreation Executive Director, candidates for Logan Campus Diversity and Organizations Executive Director, and finish up with candidates for the Logan Campus Student Events Executive Director. All right, so we would like to welcome our candidate for Logan Vice President to the stage. Either one.
This one seems shinier.
Before we begin asking the questions, I'm going to explain how JC, our timer, will be showing time counts. JC will give you a 1 when you have 1 minute left, and then she will count down from 10 when you have 10 seconds left. Okay.
Got it.
All right, our candidate for Logan Campus Vice President is Eric Folk.
Yeah, it's like saying folks with a lisp. Like, hey, folks.
Folk, a senior from Orem, Utah, studying international studies, global communications, Asian studies, and Chinese.
So our first question for Eric. In the candidate town hall last night, you said you have already gotten the ball rolling with some of your initiatives. Describe what actions you have already taken and who you have worked with to accomplish them. You have 2 minutes.
Okay, sweet. So it's kind of a good thing, though. I went and met with Linda a little bit ago and asked her about, okay, so once the declaration period is over, I was like, okay, so did I get the position? And she was like, no, you have to not get disqualified. So I was like, okay, well, I'll have to do that, but really, I can start working on things. And so I started making plans and stuff. And first of all, how to not get disqualified. But second of all, the first plan we started working on is I wanted to get some different student opinion. That's something that was part of my platform, because I wanted to be able to implement, using my cabinet / my committee, things that the students wanted. So I got some ideas from people that I already knew, Michael Popa, David Fuel, other people that have been working on under Lucas's cabinet, because I'll be taking a lot of the old President's Charter. So one thing that we kind of been working on right now is I will be taking over kind of the Facilities Enhancement Board. I'll be chairing that committee, which has a very substantial budget that I'll be able to allocate. And one thing we've already been working on and working to develop is an esports center for the esports league. Here on campus, which is awesome. A lot of bigger schools across the nation, their esports teams are making more money for their university than any other sport other than basketball and football. And so these are not only going to be making money for the university, but it's going to open up a huge community for students that traditionally don't feel supported by the university, who tend to be a community that often isolates, has mental health issues, and will feel the community support from not only the university, but from students as they actually have a place to come to campus and to be able to do the things that they're passionate about, the things that they feel that they're good at, and actually be supported by university and students. So, thank you.
Thank you.
What is your plan to raise awareness of and expand opportunities for campus involvement?
Sweet. that goes along pretty well, because we were talking about the esports committee and the esports team. Some other teams at other universities we've been researching and working with. At the University of Utah, for instance, their team consists of already over 50 students that are on that esports team. And so right there is another 50 to other schools have over hundreds of people that are on these teams. They're now going to open up involvement opportunities to hundreds of students that were traditionally didn't feel like they had those athletic abilities maybe, or didn't feel like they had those leadership abilities, or didn't feel like that was what they wanted to do, are going to have now a community to feel safe and feel supported, and a place where they can actually do what they're passionate about with other people, other Aggies. And so that will open up hundreds of opportunities there. Another thing that I want to do to open up opportunities for students, I've also been collaborating with some people in the Entrepreneurship Center to be able to make a whole new program. There's a mirrored program in other schools that I want to bring to our school that basically is an entrepreneurship program funded through donors that would be able to help 7 groups of people from 7 different majors. There's 7 different majors that are included in each team so it expands across the whole school, where basically they're funded to be able to start businesses using their own specific talents and abilities, not just like you feel like you have to be a business student to start a business, but you can bring your abilities from anywhere to be able to make profit off of your skills and your abilities, because that's why we come to school. And so that's looking to open opportunities to upwards of over 100 students as well. And then other initiatives, just including my own cabinet itself. I'm not planning to bar anyone from joining my cabinet, because I always felt that was something about the 3rd floor that was something I didn't agree with. So,
Thank you. So we'll now move into our quick hit questions. Just a reminder, you have 30 seconds to answer each, and the time will start as soon as the question has been asked. So our first quick hit question, what do you think is the most important responsibility of the Logan Campus Vice President?
I think the most important responsibility is honestly, it goes along with my platform statement. And it goes along with making sure that the students' priorities are met and that they're held by administration. My position sits on 19 committees where I'm the only student that is sitting on any of these committees. And so if I'm not being there, the TSC Policy Board, I chair that one. There's a lot of people who want to turn rooms in the TSC not for students, and I want to keep them that way.
Thank you.
Oh, 3 seconds is not a lot of time at all.
All right, so next question. This year you are running unopposed. How will you make sure more people run for your position next year?
By making it awesome. I think the position itself comes with a lot of flexibility. But also I think a lot of people didn't realize, as being a new position, what it entailed and how much potential it has to be able to affect students. Because really it's taking almost half, if not more than that, of the old president's charter. And basically you're going to be the president of Logan campus. So a lot of people are like, oh, VP of Logan, what does that mean? You're the mayor? But really, you're doing everything that the president was doing almost, was last year.
Great, thank you. Thank you, Eric, for answering our questions. We would like to invite you to rejoin the audience.
Thank you.
We would now like to invite the candidates for Athletics and Campus Recreation Executive Director to the stage. To introduce our candidates, our first candidate is Ryder Sasser, a junior from Pocatello, Idaho, studying marketing. Our second candidate is Drew Thorngren, a junior from Ogden, Utah, studying management and minoring in human resource management and leadership. Just a reminder of the format, you will have 2 minutes each to answer the question. We will rotate who answers first. After both have answered, you will each get 1 minute to respond to your opponent's answer.
All right, our first question. As herd leadership and Aggie sports fans, how have you shown enthusiasm for club sports, and what do you think is the best way to create a sustainable relationship with USU campus recreation? Ryder, you answer first, and then Drew, you have 2 minutes.
Perfect. I think that the main thing that we've been doing, I'm the current marketing director for the herd, and the main thing that we try to do is push out the information sooner to students. I've been in contact with the people who run the hockey Instagram page, as well as men's rugby kind of rebranded their Instagram page a little bit this year. And so pushing out that information to students has increased attendance, specifically at hockey. Meeting with some of the hockey guys, they're like, yo, when you push out that information sooner, we see greater and greater attendance. So I think that's one of the first thing is getting information out to students sooner. Next up for Campus Rec, I think the most important thing there as well is making sure that those who are involved know that they can invite friends, they can do other things to get people there. Campus recreation kind of went down, I feel like, a little bit post-COVID. And students weren't very aware of it. They didn't know that, hey, there's pickleball, there's all these things going on, there's activities and ways for you to meet new people and be in that environment of playing sports and stuff like that. And so moving forward, I think a good idea would be to make sure that information is pushed out to students, make sure that when those events are taking place that we are sharing that with our friends, and that's something that the HERD executive director position could do better. And one way we could do that is by continuing to have our subcommittee directors and committee members on the HERD try to reach out and work with other organizations and let them know, hey, these things are going on campus.
Drew, you have 2 minutes.
Yeah, so right now I'm the current HERD Director of Operations, so planning a lot of the events and activities. And with that, if elected, I do plan on creating a club sports director position where you're specifically working with club sports. I've already been able to reach out to several different coaches and organizations within club sports and asking what they would like to see for the upcoming year. And I've been able to get their feedback as well as students' feedback to be able to amp that up for next year. Also, I have a background of playing for campus club sports on the rugby team a couple years ago, and so I have that experience with that. But with Campus Rec, I've been able to get quite a bit of feedback with Campus Rec on what they would like to see, and I will totally agree that the past year and a half, 2 years, with COVID, it's gone down. But I love playing pickleball. There's volleyball, there's basketball, intramurals. There's so much going on, but sometimes I feel like it really gets neglected. And so I also want to create a director position specifically for campus recreation, where we're working with Daniel Lawrence and those in campus recreation and seeing what events are going on, so we're able to make graphics ahead of time. Because right now, the HERD social media, we have over 10,000 people on there, and our PR marketing team has done a great job with that and marketing that and branding that. And that's something that I would like to continue to see to help promote, not just with athletics, but club sports as well as campus rec.
You will now both have 1 minute to respond. Ryder?
I agree with Drew as well. I think that working forward with better PR marketing, pushing that stuff out there is a great idea. The one thing that I probably wouldn't do as much is by creating those extra director spots. The HERD committee does have a tendency where when we accept a lot of people onto the HERD, those numbers and those attendance rates to meetings sometimes tend to die off a little bit, just from over the years that I've been on it. I've seen the HERD committee start pretty big in the fall, and by the time where we are now in March, it seems like less and less people are coming and stuff. And I understand that, semesters change, people change, but finding those dedicated HERD committee members, I think, would be more beneficial rather than just making director spots. So.
Drew, your turn.
Yeah, and I would like to add to that, with part of this position, it is athletics and campus recreation. And I think a lot of the times, we focus a lot with the sports going on with athletics, but sometimes campus rec and club sports gets neglected. And so as fulfilling the charter, that's why I really want to create these 2 director positions, so that way campus rec is being covered because that falls under the charter, and club sports is in the charter as well. And just with getting feedback from students, a lot of them would like to see this. That way the HERD can cover more ground, and not just athletics, but as well as club sports and campus rec.
Thank you both. Our next question. You both have a goal to increase attendance at women's sports. When was the last time you attended a women's sport event? And why would you be more successful than your opponent at increasing attendance at these games? You have 2 minutes. We'll begin with Drew.
Yeah, so that's a great question. So this past year, we've been able to really help promote a lot with soccer, with volleyball, with basketball, with tennis. And with that, I do want to create a women's athletics director position. 2 years ago, we had the women's athletics committee, and it was a starter just to see what could happen. But I really want to create an actual director position where we're reaching out with coaches. And so I've had the opportunity to reach out to several student athletes on those women's teams, whether it's after a game or whether it's messaging on social media saying, hey, this is my position. I would love to be able to reach out and see what you have to hear on how we can promote your attendance. And so I've been able to get a lot of feedback. And a part of my plan, if elected, is to be able to have more game day awareness. And so if you guys remember back in high school, you'd have a cool logo on the front on your shirt, and on the back would have all the home games. And so that's something that I would like to do, not only for athletics and club sports, but that would also be part of women's athletics. So when we have volleyball home games, on the back it has all the games for home. Same thing with soccer and so forth. And that's something I feel like when students are walking around campus, they're able to see it's game day, Aggies. Soccer's got a game today. Oh, when's the next home game? Oh, I have a shirt with it. And so that's something that I would really like to see.
Awesome. the first half of that question, when was the last time you attended a women's sport event? You still have about 50 seconds.
Yeah, so the last time I attended women's sports was less than 2 weeks ago for one of their home games.
Which team?
For the Utah State?
Yeah.
I can't remember, but I was there.
All right.
Yep.
Ryder, now you have 2 minutes to answer.
Perfect. The last women's home game event I went to was against Nevada, women's basketball. It was a great game, and it actually went into double overtime, so that's kind of cool. And then moving forward for the second part of the question, what can we do to better that attendance and support our women athletes? First off, I think it just goes back to that whole pushing stuff out. I've learned a lot from being on the marketing position on the herd, and pushing that information out about when those sporting events take place is going to be very, very important. It kind of goes back to what I said about hockey. You got to get that information out there soon. Next up would be to get those women athletes more in face-to-face conversations with students. I went to volleyball games my freshman year and sophomore year, but this year I actually met probably about 5 to 10 of the volleyball athletes, and it has been great. Like, I got to know them, they're fun, they're like people, and they're like super cool to be around, and they're all taller than me, and it's like really amazing when like all these people are just like so nice to you and they treat you well. And so being with them this year has been super fun, and it made me want to go to those volleyball games more and more. So getting women athletes out and about and talking with them is great. And then lastly, we have that director's position on the herd now for women athletes, and it's kind of split between that and campus rec a little bit. But I think that it goes back to finding those dedicated herd committee members that will be willing to, hey, like, we're really dedicated to women sports, and we have a few of those on the herd now that I think do a pretty good job. And if we can continue to find those when it comes to application season, that we can continue to see that improve.
Thank you. Drew, you now have 1 minute to respond to Ryder's answer.
Yeah, I'd just like to say, with going into spring and heading into next year, there's a lot of momentum. And so just like I talked about earlier, actually talking with student athletes in person, on social media, getting their feedback has been great, because a huge part of my platform has been able to see what they would like to see, as well as talking with students and being able to make that happen. Something else that I would like to see too is this past year we've been able to tailgate for football, and we did a little bit with women's basketball, and that's something I liked for women's basketball. Before the game, we were able to table with the Black Student Union Association, and that was really great to be able to, hey, we had some hot cocoa, help promote the game, and I would like to see more collaboration with other organizations. And with that, having a herd committee where we have all majors and different backgrounds throughout campus where they can be a part of it, so we can understand what events are going on, and with that, being able to collaborate, just like how we did that event for women's basketball a couple weeks ago.
Thank you. Ryder, you now have 1 minute.
I think that we're doing a good job so far, and I believe what Drew said is true as well. The one thing that I would say differently, just that whole like splitting up that director spot into two, just keeping it one and making sure that we're finding those dedicated herd committee members. Two that I can list right now, Nils Larson as well as Zoe Erickson, are great people, and they're really dedicated to what they do as women. We call it the WAC committee, Women Athletics Committee. They're so dedicated to what they do. And so if we can find, 2 or 3 more of them, that committee, that subcommittee of the herd will grow, and we'll see a lot of good flourishings come from that.
All right, we're going to move on to the quick hits questions. So just a reminder, you have 30 seconds to answer. That will start when the question is finished being asked. So Ryder, you'll answer first, and then Drew. There were over 20 club sports teams during the 2021-2022 school year. Can you name 5 of these club sports?
Men's rugby, women's rugby, hockey, baseball, and men's soccer.
And Drew?
Yeah, men's rugby, men's lacrosse, women's lacrosse. We also have a lot going on with volleyball as well, and there's also pickleball, goes on.
Thank you. Our next quick hit and our final question for you guys. You have both had multiple grievances filed against you during this election. How do you think that reflects on your sportsmanship? Drew, 30 seconds.
Yeah, so with that, I understand people have, who they're siding with, and we're Americans. We have the chance and opportunity to, voice our opinions. But something that I will not tolerate is having people slander you when you're out campaigning, telling people not to vote and cussing. There's no room for that. And so with these grievances, Ryder and I were able to talk, hey, let's just make sure we're keeping a clean race. And so that's something that we had talked to, and so that has been a lot better.
Ryder, 30 seconds.
So both the grievances, or all the grievances and stuff, I think Drew and I both know that there was rules broken on each side a little bit, and we sorted that out. And my advice moving forward to candidates would be, and something that I would even say should be in charters or bylaws, is to, hey, meet with your opponent beforehand and make sure that you can talk these things out, because there's way better things to be doing than spending your weekday nights on the third floor of the TSC when you could be out doing presentations, campaigning, and getting in the face of students.
Thank you both. We'd like to thank the candidates for Logan Campus Athletics and Campus Recreation Executive Director and invite you guys to join the audience.
Thank you.
We would now like to invite the candidates for Logan Campus Diversity and Organizations Executive Director to the stage.
Our candidates for Diversity and Organizations Executive Director are Noah Ivaga, a junior from Cottonwood Heights, Utah, studying finance with a minor in real estate, and Cole Lancaster, a junior from Mountain Home, Idaho, studying sociology with a minor in sexual studies and a certificate in pre-law and societal studies.
Looks like we only have one of our candidates for the Diversity and Organizations Executive Director. So this will function similarly to Eric's debate, where you will have 2 minutes to answer each of the questions, and then we'll go right into the quick hits without any rebuttals. So our first question, what do you think is the most efficient way to facilitate communication with USUSA clubs and organizations? And what experience do you have with managing different groups and effectively communicating with them? You have 2 minutes, Cole.
Yes, thank you. So I'm a transfer student from the College of Southern Idaho, and at my previous campus, I was the activities director. And in my job as the activities director, I was over a council of students in which we planned many different student events. There were 5 other councils on campus, and we were in direct communication with those student councils to make sure that we co-hosted and co-marketed events together so that all the students were getting the best student experience possible. And to effectively make sure that all aspects of USUSA and of USUSA clubs have effective communication, I believe it's important to establish like a good set foundation for all student leaders to be held accountable and make sure that clubs and councils on campus are audited to see if they are active versus inactive, and then when that audit is complete, to make sure that there's set communication for all student leaders to have a platform to make sure their voices are heard. Thank you.
Thank you. Why will your platform be more effective in creating an environment of inclusion and belonging on campus compared to your opponents?
Can you please repeat the question? Sorry, there's a lot of
Yes, sorry.
feedback.
Why will your platform be more effective in creating an environment of inclusion and belonging on campus compared to your opponents?
2 minutes for this question, correct? Okay, cool. So my platform has many different aspects, but so does my competitors. I believe that both of us have strengths in many different areas where the other one doesn't. But on my platform, I have been a current student worker for the Inclusion Center for the last academic school year, in which I've been able to work closely with many student groups under the Inclusion Center. And with those pre-existing foundations that I have and relationships that I have with those clubs and councils, I will be able to make sure that all of the marginalized student groups under the Inclusion Center and other USUSA departments will make sure their voices are heard and amplified. But yeah, thank you.
Great. We will now move into our quick hit questions. A reminder that you have 30 seconds to answer, which will begin as soon as the question is asked. So our first question, there are nearly 100 USUSA clubs on campus at any given time. Can you name 3?
Yes, there's Host of Future Health Professionals, there is NAMI, the National Alliance of Mental Illness, and then there's like a business marketing club.
Thank you.
Our next question, what is an experience outside of USU involvement that has prepared you to take on this position?
Outside of USU involvement, I'm currently an RA in the Living Learning community, in which I have to work effectively with all of my residents to make sure they have the best student experience possible. So outside of USUSA and did you say outside of USU?
Outside
Oh, shoot. Okay, so at my last college, I was activities director, in which I was able to work effectively with many student groups and hold events for many students to have the best student experience possible. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you. All right, Cole, thank you. We would like to invite you to rejoin the audience. We would now like to invite the candidates for Student Events Executive Director to the stage. To introduce our candidates, our first is Dakota Oldham, who is a junior from North Logan, Utah, majoring in Integrated Studies of Business and Communication with a minor in Multimedia Development. Our second candidate is Dee Shumway, a junior from Blanding, Utah, majoring in Math Education.
All right, so the questions, we'll rotate who answers first, and you'll have 2 minutes to respond and then a 1-minute rebuttal. You both list inclusion or inclusivity as a point of your platform. What does inclusivity mean to you, and why are you more qualified than your competitor to create an inclusive experience at events and within the events office? Dakota, you'll answer first.
Thank you. I love that question. Inclusion is my first platform piece, and it is a value that I hold very dear. Coming from a background of a woman, I have felt excluded in certain things. I'm a business major, but I've found a lot of inclusion in where I feel comfortable. I want to create an environment where people feel loved and wanted, and that can come through inclusion at events and having people having conversations. That one-on-one communication is so important to have, and that is a great environment to have for inclusion.
All right, Dee, you have 2 minutes.
Inclusivity is super important to me. I want to make sure that everybody feels invited and included at Utah State and they can find their place. Kind of my plan for it is I want to work with other organizations and clubs at Utah State and the other USUSA officers to create events with them so that it promotes their club and people can find their place at Utah State, because I think that's really how you feel included. You work, you find a place, you find your club, you find your organization, you find your friends, and that's how you do it. So I want to promote other clubs and organizations through our events, like we're doing the multicultural POBEV at the end of the month, and I think that's going to be super good for BSU and PSU to really get their names out there and let people know what's going on, and hey, you can join this, it's super awesome. And another example is the Ox Battle that we did a couple weeks ago. It just got a bunch of clubs and organizations' names out there that I have never even heard of, like the Jump Rope Club. That's so cool that exists, and anybody can join. And I just want to make sure there's a place for everybody at Utah State. And speaking from my own experience, I didn't have any friends when I first came up here. I was all alone. And then I joined student events, and it's been the time of my life, and I've met all my friends, and now I have such a fond place in my heart for Utah State. So I want to create that inclusion for all students and help them find their club organization at Utah State.
Thank you. So our next question, the Student Events Executive Director, rebuttals. Just kidding.
Dakota, you have 1 minute to respond.
I love what Dee said. I love the idea of making people have a voice in inclusion and stuff. I chose to get involved in the Education Council because I wanted to have a one-on-one relationship with a lot of the women in that council. And it has taught me a lot about how to collaborate with people, but also how to listen to their voices and collaborate with them. I'm really grateful for that, but I bring a unique perspective to this position due to that background of involvement and that choice of time used in a way. But I love what he said.
And Dee, you also have 1 minute.
Awesome. Yeah, listening to everybody's story, super important. I think we have great events to do that. POBEV is a great opportunity for people to just get their name out there and really just hey, this is me, listen to who I am, this is a poem about me, this is a song about me. We have great events in place to listen to people's stories, and I hope that those events, I hope we can promote them more and help people feel included and make sure we get diverse and different people up there and performing at all events. Just really make sure people know hey, Utah State is what you make it, let's do it.
Thank you. Now we will move on to our next question. So the Student Events Executive Director oversees the 3 events committees and chairs the programming board. What experience do you have with management and leadership, and why are you the better candidate to lead these groups? We'll start with Dee. You have 2 minutes.
So I love volunteering. It's my passion and my life. I'm actually the volunteer coordinator right now for student events. So I get to email everybody and be like, hey, there's an event coming up. Will you guys volunteer at this? And then when they come to events, I try to get to know them. And I'm like, hey, how's it going? I'm the volunteer coordinator. I'm the one who emailed you. I'm so glad you're here and helping out. But outside of USUSA, I actually work with an organization called YouthLink. And I'm an assistant team leader, and I have done it for the past 3 years. And it's just, I work on getting students, high school students to volunteer and like get out and engaged in their communities. And I've just really enjoyed it. And I don't know, leadership is what you make it, but I think leadership is like the most important aspect of leadership is like looking at people as people and just like connecting with them on a personal level, getting to know their name, inviting them to stuff. On Thursday, I'm going to Los Primos with series committee. We're gonna go get some pupusas, and I'm very excited. But like just getting to know people and like knowing that everybody has ideas and everybody has unique perspectives, and playing to their strengths.
Thank you. Dakota, you have 2 minutes.
I love this question. I believe I'm a qualified candidate because of my work experience and volunteering experience here in Utah State, as well as the community. I'm from Logan, so I've been a part of the community since I was a baby. And I currently work and am the race or the finish line coordinator for a local bike race. It's called the Cash Gran Fondo. And it is a national bike race with over 2,000 people that come all over the world to come and bike for us. And it has been some of the coolest experiences organizing that finish line, because we try and create a party at the end of the race, because everyone's just finished a 100-mile bike ride. They're all tired, they're dying, and they want some food. And so organizing that and talking with the people, the bikers that had just finished, but also learning how to connect with the sponsorships and the other people in the valley, and so we can have that connection. And but that work experience has taught me a lot about how to organize an event, but also how to communicate with people in the community. And I think that can be a very valuable skill and asset to have in this position. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now move into rebuttals. Do you have 1 minute to respond?
Yeah, so I'm not from Logan, Utah. I'm from Blanding, Utah. There's a regional campus down there. I love it with my whole heart. But like I said, I came to Utah State all alone. I did all the event stuff in high school, and I was like, okay, I'm just gonna come to Utah State. I'm gonna do school. I'll be fine. And then I joined because I was lonely and I needed friends. And then I've just learned so much. I've tried to like learn the directors, learn the position, like figure it out. And like this position is great because you're over the directors and you plan 2 weeks of events, but you kind of just like oversee like making sure that the directors have what they need, making sure that events are what students want to see. You do less of the planning, but like I'm excited for the planning part of it. I just think, I don't know, the planning part is super important, but also like there's less of it for this position.
Thank you. Dakota, you now have 1 minute to respond.
Okay. Thank you. Yes, I completely agree that organization is more for the directors of the events itself, but I think organization is a very important characteristic to have in any type of leadership role. You have to be hardworking and determined to do what you have shared and what you have said, and I think we both hold that pretty dear to our hearts. I've seen that this week, and I think it's really important to make sure that people are hearing what we're saying, but also that we're hearing what they're saying as well. Thank you.
We will now move on to our quick hits questions, where you have 30 seconds to respond once I finish reading the question. Our first question: What are the most important qualities you will look for when appointing committee directors? Dakota, you'll answer first.
After talking to a lot of people involved, I think one of the best or most important characteristics to have in a director is that they care about Aggies, the Aggie family, the Aggie Nation. They want to be friends with those individuals. I want to create an environment where people are friends, and that comes through the directors up first. Thank you.
Do you have 30 seconds as well?
So thinking about directors, I just think you want to make sure they're caring, like Dakota said. You also want to make sure to play into everybody's strengths and weaknesses. There's a lot of different perspectives in the student events office right now who are primarily probably going to be the directors next year. And just like getting to know them, like I know most of them on a personal level, and just making sure to play into their strengths, and for the directors and for the Blue Crew president as well, just making sure everybody's kind, strong, and they just want to have a good time.
Thank you. So our final question for the debate: what is the most successful event you've been involved in the planning of, either on or off campus? D, 30 seconds.
Probably the most successful event was Carnival in the Quad. It was a great time. In the beginning of the semester, there was a crazy amount of people. First event of the semester, so many people came. There was lots of lines, food trucks. It looked like everybody was having a good time, and there was a concert there too. I just loved it. One of the big struggles that we came into was that one of our things it was stuck in mud in Montana, but then we figured it out and we got some more things. But super exciting and a ton of fun to be a part of.
Dakota, 30 seconds.
Probably one of the most successful in my heart was probably a few weeks ago. I'm a part of President's Cabinet, and I'm in charge of the Meet Who activities every Thursday or every month. And we had the ROTC Army come here on Utah State, and we had pizza, and there were a bunch of people coming to meet each other, and we're having another one on Thursday. And it was so rewarding to see everybody communicating and chatting, but also having fun, enjoying food.
All right, thank you both. We'd like to thank the candidates for Student Events Executive Director and invite you to leave the stage. That concludes our debate. We'd like to thank everyone who came in person or who watched online or listened in on the radio. Just a reminder that voting is open until 11:59 tonight. You can change your vote as many times as you would like. Results will be announced tomorrow morning at 11 a.m. in the hub, and if necessary, runoff elections will begin on Thursday. Thank you.